there. I'll go really fast. For me, at number 1, I didn't have it this way originally, but just based on how much I've listened to After Hours by The Weeknd, I went ahead and put that up at number 1, just out of like the solid enjoyment level I've gotten out of it. Pretty exciting record for him. Second, also, I think we had a much more limited reaction to this when it dropped, and we talked about it on the pod. We really breezed over it. But Purple Moonlight Pages by R.A.P Ferreira, formerly known as Milo, I have it number 2. Grew on me a lot in my most recent listen to it. I love this new sound for him. Slightly, I think he's still using the same very poetic flow, but it is getting paired with some instrumentals that I just normally wouldn't have heard him use. And I think it gives him a really fresh, new, and even more accessible look. I think Milo previously has been a really interesting artist, but enigmatic and maybe a little hard to approach if you're not into certain scenes. This project, I don't really feel like that barrier is there. Maybe just finding out about it is the barrier. Childish Gambino at number 3. Again, I did enjoy the record. I thought there were some really ambitious components to it. Although, Jared, you did make a point about, or no, somebody else made a point on your page about the Prince gestures. I will say probably one of the weakest parts of the project.
Yeah, I found that to be really distracting for me the most on the record. That's why I didn't like it. There was just like so many ideas of all these great artists that like he's influenced by, but he just like was doing them either so copy and paste or just so untastefully that it kind of just distracted me.
Yeah, I would say the moments where I felt like there was the most Prince influence, I didn't feel like were really my favorite moments. Like, they're not really the most memorable moments. I really remember them because I had this moment where I was like, oh, he really is going for like a Prince thing here. Yeah. It's kind of the note in my mind that was made there. So, but number 4, 1988, Knowledge. Again, really fantastic. And then number 5, I went Trent on this one. I'm using 2 here. Besides Chance De La Soul, we brought that up earlier. And on the last episode, I brought up Forever Your Girl by Kia A, or Kaya A, as I probably still am not pronouncing that correctly. Anyone who's willing to get into a slower burning R&B record, it's kind of got that dusty feel to it, and it keeps a good pace throughout. So which one of y'all would like to drop a list next?
You can go ahead, Trent, unless you don't have yours.
No, I got mine. Number 1 for me is definitely 1988, The Knowledge Joint, because I don't know, my favorite albums of the year were both like I had them sitting at like 8.4 so far, and then this one dropped and I'm like, well, I like this better than those ones, so this must be the best album of the year for me so far. I think I had After Hours after that, the Gambino joint. Number 4, I have what technically dropped in March. It dropped on the last day of March, or second to last day. The LULU, the Alchemist Conway shit. I don't know, for being one of the first Griselda things for the year, it gets me really hyped for whatever else is coming after. And I mean, it's Alchemist, so like every beat was fire. Yeah. Conway was good. The only song that I didn't really like was the single, was that Schoolboy Q thing. I just was not crazy about that song. But the rest of it is so clean, and everything's like, it sounds just like what you want a Griselda member and Alchemist to sound like.
Yeah, so, like I'm not as big of a like Griselda fan as most. Like I like them a lot, but like I'm not one to always give them like 8 out of 10s and shit.
Right.
But like this one is definitely one of the higher like projects in the Griselda camp so far, in my opinion. Just because it's just straight good beats, good fucking bars.
I was gonna say, like, I personally think Conway is the best rapper out of all those guys. He's not my favorite of all of them, but he's definitely, I think, the most like lyrical and has like some of the best like double entendres.
I think his rhyme schemes, his rhyme
schemes are crazy, and it might be the fact that I also just love his voice. It's like a kind of a weird reason to love his voice,
right? And he literally has like a different handicap. Like he's literally achieving more by just by just rapping every bar than most rappers are, you know.
Yeah. Did he freeze again?
I think so. Was that his last record?
He had one more, I
Yeah,
think.
damn it.
Rip.
We're on the Trent 5th album cliffhanger, and I'm dying to know.
I need to know what number 5 was.
You can go ahead and start your list, Jared, if you want.
All right. So my favorite album of March was the Shabaka and the Ancestors album. We Were Sent Here by History. It's just really great, like African spiritual jazz music with some cool poetry going on.
Shabakan?
My number 2 of the month was The Weeknd, After Hours. It's just like one of the best pop albums I've heard in a while. I can't stop listening to it.
Yeah.
Just flames.
Yeah.
Number 3 is one of the new 9 Inch Nails records, which is Ghost 6 Locusts. And that was the more like harsh, dark ambient one. And that just like, I only listened to it once, which is why it's only number 3. But I feel like if I consume it more, it'll probably move up on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, I have Lil Uzi versus the World 2, because I wanted to separate it from Eternal Attack or Eternal Take. Because I fucking adore Uzi versus the World 2. Those 12 songs in the beginning are just so good. Just perfect trap music, really. And then my last one was by a band called Mamaleek, which is called Come and See. They're like an experimental like rock group. They kind of sound like early era Swans, like just very disgustingly dirty, heavy rock music. There is the legend himself.
There he is.
Shit is rough, man.
It's all good. Go ahead and give us the 5th album on your list, man.
I had a tie.
The 5th spot's always a tie.
This spot's always a tie. I like the what I think is kind of like a weird album that people might have to grow on people a little bit more. But that Sufjan Stevens and Lowell Brams or Lowell Brams, I don't know how to say his name. Aporia. I don't know how to say anything, but it's like, you know, one of those super like ambient kind of weirdo records. But I threw it on one day at work and I was just like, man, this is great music. Like all the sounds are so clean and everything's mixed really well. The engineering is perfect, which I would expect from Sufjan Stevens. So I don't know. And then I had that tied with what I think is a really good album, but I think people are focusing too much on like who it's by and like. But I like the written testimony a lot. I think everyone is kind of hung up on like any promises that Jay Electronica made or like any, you know, the fact that
the pretext of the album. Yeah. I think people are wrapped up in the pretext of the album.
Yeah, they're focused too much on that when really I think in all honesty it's just a good album. Like if you just take it for what it is and how it sounds.
Yeah.
And the bars, like even if it's a Jay Electronica album and like Jay-Z's not credited with his feature or whatever, Jay-Z still sounds awesome on the record. So
right. If you had if Jay Electronica didn't exist for the past 10 years and this was just some guy that was coming up on the Rock Nation imprint and just got this record with, you know, Jay-Z and brought all this like, you know, all this, I'll just say post Jay-Z era, Jay-Z type, attitude to it. I mean, people, you know, I think there's still a lot to be excited about on that project. Yeah, I'm with you there. It didn't crack that list for me, but still, I have pretty positive feelings on it, and I think there are things to criticize about it.
There are. But I think a lot of people are, you know, they don't want to dive into what they don't think is good about the album, other than the fact that it's like, oh well, Jay Electronica didn't show up, but like it's still a good album though. Like even if he didn't show up to the extent that you thought he would, or like his bars weren't on par with Jay-Z's or whatever you want to say. Like the album itself is still really good. Even if it was just a Jay-Z album, I'm sure people would like
on this alone, to me, you know, was worth the experience.
If it was a written testimony by Jay-Z, I swear people would like fuck with this album.